The story of Sheeth and Sulullah, the hidden prophet. In the quiet dawn of human history, after the first family had been shattered by the first crime, a profound silence fell upon the earth. It was the silence of grief. The parents of humanity, Adam and Eve, wept not only for their righteous son Habil, who had been taken by death, but also for their misguided son Qabil, who had been taken by sin. The earth, still pristine and new, had tasted its first drop of innocent blood, and the weight of this tragedy introduced a sorrow that had never been known before. This was the world's first lesson in loss, jealousy, and the devastating consequences of straying from the path of God. But it is in the deepest darkness that the promise of a new dawn is most cherished. And into this world of grief, Allah, in His infinite mercy, sent a gift of consolation, a beacon of hope to continue the legacy of light. This is the story of that gift, the story of a son who would become a prophet, a guardian of sacred knowledge, and the vital link in the golden chain of guidance. This is the story of Sheeth and Sulullah, the appointed one. Islamic tradition tells us that 5 years after the tragic loss of Habil, Hawa gave birth to a special son. Unlike his siblings, who were often born as twins, he was born alone. Adam and Hawa looked upon this child and saw in him a tranquility and a light that reminded them of their son who was lost. Adam, by divine inspiration, knew this child was a compensation from God, a replacement for Habil. He named him Sheeth, which in the ancient Syriac language meant the gift of Allah or the appointed one. From his earliest moments, it was clear that Sheeth was different. He was known for his piety, his intelligence, and his striking resemblance to his father, Adam, not just in appearance but in character and wisdom. Sheeth's upbringing was unique in all of human history, for his teacher was humanity's first prophet, his own father. He grew up not hearing stories of the past, but learning the past from the man who had lived it. Adam, now carrying the immense weight of nearly a millennium of life, took Sheeth as his most devoted student and confidant. He would sit with his son for hours, recounting the majesty of the heavens and the wonders of Jannah. He Adam instructed all his other children to honor, obey, and follow Sheeth as their guide and leader. But the succession was more than just a public appointment. In private, Adam entrusted Sheesh with a body of sacred knowledge meant only for the prophetic line. He gave him the scrolls of Adam, the divine revelations he had received, and informed him of the divine revelations that would come to Sheesh himself. Islamic tradition, as narrated by early historians like Ibn Kathir, holds that 50 divine scrolls or Suhuf were revealed directly to Prophet Sheesh. These scrolls were not a new religion but a continuation and elaboration of the law of Adam. They contained wisdom, parables, and laws concerning all aspects of life, reinforcing the call to worship Allah alone and detailing the moral code by which to live. Adam also entrusted Sheesh with secret knowledge of the unseen, including prophecies of what was to come for humanity, most notably the coming of a great flood that would cleanse the earth and the subsequent arrival of a great prophet named Noah, who would be from Sheesh's own lineage. Sheesh was now the custodian of the past and the harbinger of the future. After Adam passed away, Sheesh honorably fulfilled the duties of his father's burial and formally took on his role as the leader and prophet for all of humanity. He governed his people with the perfect justice and wisdom he had learned from his father. His mission was one of preservation. In a world so young, where the original divine message was still fresh, his primary task was to be the guardian of that truth. He diligently taught the revelations he received and the laws of his father, ensuring that the pure monotheistic faith of Tawhid remained uncorrupted. He established rules for marriage, commerce, and social conduct, creating a society built on a foundation of divine law. During his time, humanity began to split into two distinct communities, representing the two legacies of Adam's sons. The descendants of Sheesh and his righteous siblings largely remained in the mountainous regions around the area where Adam had lived, dedicating themselves to agriculture, worship, and a pious, simple life. Meanwhile, the descendants of the unrepentant Qabil migrated away, settling in the vast open plains. Over generations, the influence of Shaitan began to work deeply within this second community. Islamic tradition narrates that it was among the people of the plains that distracting musical instruments were invented and a culture of vanity and heedlessness began to grow. Immorality became common, and they strayed further and further from the laws of God. The most dangerous innovation that arose among them was the seed of idolatry, the very thing that would later lead to the great flood. It began subtly. When righteous people among them died, Shaitan whispered to the living, "Create statues and images of these pious individuals to remember them by. When you look upon these images, you will be reminded of their righteousness, and it will encourage you to worship God." At first, they only created images, but the next generation was told that their forefathers used to venerate these statues. The generation after that was told that their ancestors actually worshipped these statues and that these statues could act as intermediaries to God. Thus, the pure monotheism of Adam was slowly eroded, and shirk, the unforgivable sin of associating partners with Allah, took root. Prophet Sheesh alayhi salam stood as a bulwark against this rising tide of corruption. He warned his own people sternly against mingling with the people of the plains, fearing they would be corrupted by their ways. He maintained a community of believers, a sanctuary of faith centered on the pure worship of the one true God. His life was not filled with grand public miracles that defied the law. As Prophet Sheesh alayhi salam grew old, he knew he had to ensure the sacred trust was passed on, just as his father had done for him. He appointed his most righteous and knowledgeable son, Anush, often equated with Enosh in the biblical tradition, as his successor, entrusting him with the sacred scrolls and the secret knowledge of the prophets. He passed away, leaving behind a profound legacy. The legacy of Prophet Sheeth is not one of conquering armies or magnificent monuments. It is the quiet, powerful legacy of a guardian. He was the vital bridge connecting the dawn of humanity with its future. Through his unwavering commitment, the golden chain of prophethood remained unbroken. He was the vital link between Adam and the next great prophets, Idris and Enoch, and eventually Noah. He preserved the original teachings and the prophecy of the flood, ensuring that when the world plunged into darkness, the knowledge of salvation would still exist within the prophetic lineage. The story of Sheeth alayhi salam is a powerful lesson on the importance of preservation and the sacred duty of passing down knowledge. It teaches us that faith is a trust and amana that must be diligently guarded and transmitted to the next generation. In an age of grand narratives, his life reminds us of the profound impact of the quiet scholar, a patient teacher, and the steadfast guardian who works tirelessly, often hidden from the eyes of history, to keep the light of truth from being extinguished. He was the hidden prophet, whose steadfastness ensured that humanity would never be left without a guide on its long journey back to God.